So this week we're going to be talking about the census. The census is in 2020. And so there's some information, a little video here about the census, and then a little thing we're going to read. So let's watch the video.
Beginning in March, the U.S. Census Bureau will invite households across the country to participate in the 2020 census. Well, what is the census? Simply put, the census is a head count of every person living in the United States. To be sure the government represents the people, the U.S. Constitution requires a population count every 10 years. Ever since 1790, the census has determined the number of seats each state receives in the U.S. House of Representatives. It is, and always has been, a cornerstone of our democracy. We still use it to determine representation, but leaders also use the data to make decisions. Your response helps guide planning for the future of our communities. The 2020 census will help inform decisions on how billions of dollars are allocated annually for critical public services like roads, schools, hospitals and healthcare clinics, fire and emergency response services, and hundreds of other programs. In 2020, for the first time, you'll be able to complete the census online, by phone, or by mail. It asks a few simple questions, like how many people live in your home on April 1st, including their age and sex, and if there are any children living there. You should know that by law, all census responses are completely confidential, and your personal information cannot be shared with any law enforcement agencies. Every person counts, no matter who you are or where you live. So whether your family has participated for decades or the 2020 census will be your first, we all have a role in shaping the future of our country. Beginning in March.
All right, so that is a little bit about what the 2020 census is about. And your parents will be getting some information and filling out papers. And they will be counted, and you will be counted, and any siblings you have will be counted. So now we're going to look at, it's been going on for 230 years. The first one, like it said in the video, was in 1790. So we're going to see some comparisons between 1790 and 2020. So here we go. So the 1790 census was the first United States census. The 2020 census is the first census with the option for households in the United States to respond online, by phone, or by mail. Always before they've gone door to door. So the area that was counted in 1790 was the original 13 states. The districts of Kentucky, Maine, and Vermont, and the Southwest Territory. And you can see on the map there a little bit of area that was counted. In 2020, the 2020 census counts everyone living in the United States and its 5 territories, which are Puerto Rico, American Samoa, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So the way they conduct the count in 1790, they were by horseback and on foot. Approximately 650 U.S. Marshals and assistants recorded answers on forms made of parchment and animal skins. Wow, that's a lot different. Now households can respond online, by phone, or by mail. Hundreds of thousands of temporary census takers will use smartphones to follow up with households that don't respond. Who is leading the effort? In 1790, Thomas Jefferson was the Secretary of State, and he was the manager of the census. In 2020, it is Steve Dillingham, who is the Census Bureau Director. Census Day in 1790 was August 2nd, 1790. In 2020, it is April 1st, 2020. That's Steph's birthday. The representatives in Congress in 1790 was 65. This number would increase to 105 based on the results of the 1790 census. In the 2020 census, 435 is the total number of representatives set by the Apportionment Act of 1929. The current Congress includes record numbers of women and minority representatives. In the news, what was in the news in 1790? President George Washington delivered the country's first State of the Union address in January. What's happening in 2020 is more than 500 U.S. athletes are expected to compete in the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, Japan. Tunes of the times. In 1790, the country's first singing contest was held between choirs from Dorchester and Stoughton, Massachusetts. In 2020, Alicia Keys hosted the 62nd Annual Grammy Awards in January. Did you know, in 1790, 109,826. That was the combined population of the country's 5 largest cities: New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Charleston, South Carolina, and Baltimore. And in 2020, 107,601. That was the attendance capacity at the largest college football stadium in the United States, Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So the population in those 5 cities in 1790 could have fit in one football stadium that we go to now. The U.S. population in 1790 was 3,929,214. We don't know the population in 2020. That's what the census is all about. So your family will be taking the census and making your numbers count.